Once, in the heart of a restless city, there lived a man named Samuel. He was 30, ambitious, and always surrounded by sound. His mornings began with the alarm shrieking into his ears, followed by the buzz of his phone with endless notifications. The streets screamed with car horns, vendors shouted, music spilled from every shop, and conversations filled the air like smoke. At work, his office was never quiet. Phones ringing, keyboards clattering, voices overlapping. Even when he returned home at night, he filled the silence with television, music, or podcasts, afraid to be left alone with nothing but his own thoughts. For Samuel, noise was normal, even necessary, but deep inside something was breaking. Though surrounded by people, Samuel often felt desperately alone. Though he seemed busy and successful, his mind felt empty, like a room echoing with hollow sound. He had forgotten the last time he truly listened to his own heartbeat, or sat still without distraction. Every night before falling asleep with earbuds in his ears, he felt an ache, a longing for something he could not name. It was as if his soul was whispering, but the volume of the world made it impossible to hear. One evening, after a particularly chaotic day, Samuel wandered into an old bookstore tucked away on a quiet side street. It was small, dusty, and filled with the smell of old paper. He had passed it 100 times without noticing, but tonight it seemed to call to him. Inside, among shelves stacked with forgotten volumes, sat an old man with silver hair, reading in perfect silence. The place felt different, as though the walls themselves absorbed noise. Samuel approached, almost whispering as if afraid to disturb the peace. "Sir," he said, "I feel like my life is drowning in noise. My mind is restless, my heart unsettled. Everywhere I go I hear voices, sounds, distractions. But even when I am alone, I feel no peace. I do not know how to listen anymore. Can you help me?" The old man looked up slowly, his eyes calm and steady, as if silence lived inside them. He closed the book, rose, and gestured for Samuel to follow. Together they stepped outside, walking through the busy city until they reached a small courtyard, surrounded by tall stone walls. In the center stood a fountain, its water trickling softly. The old man handed Samuel a small bell tied to a thin string. "Here is your task," he said. "Hold this bell in your hand and walk through the market. You must return without letting the bell make a sound." Samuel stared at the bell. The market was the loudest place in the city, filled with shouts, laughter, and chaos. "How can I do this?" he asked. The old man smiled faintly. "The lesson is not in my words. It is in the silence you must create," Samuel began. At first the bell trembled in his unsteady hands, ringing faintly as he stepped. People bumped into him, carts rattled, children ran past, and dogs barked. Each sound seemed to demand his attention, but Samuel forced himself to slow down, to move carefully, to focus entirely on the stillness of the bell. He stopped hearing the voices around him. He stopped noticing the chaos. The world grew distant, blurred. His mind narrowed to a single purpose: keeping the bell quiet. Minutes passed like hours. Sweat ran down his face. His body ached from the careful effort. But as he moved, something extraordinary happened. For the first time in years, the noise outside did not control him. For the first time, his mind became quiet. The silence of the bell spread inside him, and he realized he was hearing something deeper: the steady rhythm of his breath, the beat of his heart, the soft trickle of the fountain far behind him. At last he returned to the courtyard, exhausted, but strangely at peace. He opened his hand and showed the silent bell to the old man. "I did it," he whispered. The old man nodded and asked, "But tell me, did you hear the market? Did you hear the voices, the laughter, the chaos?" Samuel shook his head slowly. "No, I only heard the silence I was protecting." The old man smiled. "That is the lesson. The world will always be filled with noise. People will always shout, machines will always hum, and your mind will always try to echo it. But silence is not something the world must give you. Silence is something you must choose to create, and when you choose it, it will speak louder than 1,000 voices." Samuel sat by the fountain as the evening fell, and for the first time he listened, not to the chaos of the city, but to the stillness within himself. He heard the whisper of peace he had been chasing all his life. Tears filled his eyes, for he understood now that silence was not absence. Silence was presence. the presence of his soul, the presence of life, the presence of what truly mattered. From that day on, Samuel changed. He still lived in the noisy city, still worked in the busy office, still walked crowded streets. But inside, he carried the bell that never rang. Whenever the noise of life grew overwhelming, he closed his eyes, breathed deeply, and returned to that moment of silence. He discovered that silence was not about shutting out the world, but about listening to what was always there beneath the noise. And now, as you reflect on Samuel's journey, ask yourself, how often do you let the world's voices drown out your own? How often do you fear silence, filling every moment with distractions only to end the day still feeling empty? The truth is, silence is not emptiness. Silence is the place where your soul finally has space to speak. If this story touched you, let us know by giving it a like. Share it with a friend who needs to hear the quiet truth beneath the noise. And in the comments, write one word that represents what silence means to you. Your word may be the spark someone else is waiting for. And don't forget to subscribe, because each week we bring new stories, new lessons, and new reminders that peace is closer than you think. Life will never stop making noise. But as Samuel discovered, the day silence speaks inside you, it will always be louder than 1,000 voices.